Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we spruce up the area behind me around my pond. So let's go. We are on the west side of my house, which is the front of my house. I have my walkway that leads to my front door. And a number of years ago, my husband and I installed a small pond just at the base of my front porch. And what I thought we'd do today is basically just go around it, talk about the plants that are there, and clean it up and plant some new plants in that area just to spruce it up. Let me take you in for a closer look. You can see it, it's right over there. And I'm going to show you some of the things I have in mind. Over here is a perennial. It's called evening primrose. It is very pretty. It has a nice yellow flower to it. And it basically is, I wouldn't call it aggressive, but it definitely is a fast mover. And I'd like to remove it from this area. I'm going to pot it up, but I will put it in other areas of my yard. I just don't want it around the pond. There are some beautiful mini hosta. And these hosta will not get any bigger than they are. And you can see next to my hand how small they are. They are really cute. And what I've learned about mini hosta is they're actually hard to find. There are a few varieties that are more common than others, one of them being blue mouse ears. And I don't believe I see it around my pond here, but I know I have it in other parts of my garden. So what I'm thinking for today, in terms of the mini hosta, is we may or may not divide some of the mini hosta that are around the pond. We definitely need to weed small little sections here. And you can see there are some gaps. I want to fill those gaps in. We are going to add some annuals, and I'm thinking wax begonias just because I have so many that I started from seed. And we're also going to go shop my yard for other mini hosta to put around here, just to add interest around the pond. There is a perennial right over there. Some of you may know it. I'm pretty sure it's called Queen Anne's lace. And what we're going to do is try to remove as much of it as we can. It's extremely aggressive, and at a minimum, we're going to remove it over here. And probably in the fall, I'm going to have to take apart part of my pond and remove the rest of it. But at least if we can remove this section here, I would be happy with that. Last year, we planted a bunch of perennials over in this section here. And while I like it, I don't love it. So we're going to take a look at the perennial towards the front here, and that's called an English daisy. I love it. It's also very aggressive, so we may need to just pull out some of it just to keep it in check. There's some heuchera in here, and I think I might keep that in here, but there's also Jacob's ladder. I love Jacob's ladder, but I do feel it's a little too tall for my liking around the pond. And I'm taking you in this angle here just so you can see what it looks like. So keep in mind when it comes to the heuchera, it's going to have a blossom. It's setting it up right now. Eventually that blossom gets cut and the heuchera is more of a low-lying ground cover. However, the Jacob's ladder has also gone by. So we're going to start with just cutting back the Jacob's ladder. And I might decide to keep it in here, but it definitely needs to be cut back because it just looks kind of scraggly the way it is. And if we keep it in here, that's fine too, because it has a very, very pretty leaf structure to it that adds a little interest in this section. Right behind it, if you look over here, we have a hosta. We'll probably keep that in there. But again, as we come in here and do some maintenance, we'll decide what we're going to do. But again, you can see that Queen Anne's lace is pretty aggressive in here. There's also some columbine, and it's still blooming. We'll leave it as is. Eventually, that also will need to be cut back once the blossoms have been spent. And that also has a very pretty leaf structure. And I'm thinking that this area here, the biggest thing is just kind of size controlling the plants that need to be cut back and keeping this plant here in check. So let's get started with our project. I've learned to really appreciate evening primrose. To be honest with you, there was a while where I didn't like it at all because it's a little bit of an aggressive grower and it likes to spread. But there are a number of perennials that do that. And if they're easy to dig up and just control, then I feel like it's not a problem. And this is one of those plants that falls in that category. The reason I'm removing it from around the pond is because I do want to add this plant to other areas of my yard because I really don't have it in other sections of my yard. I also want to remove it from around the pond because I feel like this little pocket right here deserves an annual. I'd like to put an annual in here that's going to bloom all summer long. Just because the pond is such a small space, I want that impact. I want that color. And as with any perennial, this perennial only blooms for a short period of time. So I really want to dedicate this space to an annual that's going to bloom the whole summer. I'm noticing there's also little seedlings of bloodroot. So of course I'm going to try to save those as well. And I can pot those up too. And if I don't pot them up, I can at least move them somewhere else in my yard where there's other bloodroot. I love the leaf of bloodroot. I think it's beautiful. So we're just going to tuck in these teeny tiny little seedlings in this spot here. We got 3 seedlings. So we ended up with 11 plants here, and I just pulled 2 pots. They're used pots. I love to recycle pots for this purpose. And I figure we'll put 5 plants in one pot and 6 in the other. One thing I've learned about plants is it's fun to shop your own yard. And if you don't love where a plant is, then it's okay to remove it. But you don't have to throw it away. You can give it to a friend, or you can do what I'm doing, which is pot it up and put it somewhere else in your yard. If you know exactly where you want to put it, then that's great. Go ahead and put it in that section of your yard. But I have no idea where I want to place these. So that's why I'm potting them up. And at a different date, I can shop my own yard and take these plants and put them somewhere else. And I love potting them up in smaller size pots because then I just have more plants to pick from. And that way, like, I'm starting with 2 pots, and that's a better feeling for me. I can put it in 2 different areas, even if they're near each other, than one big pot. And if I don't find a place for these this year, I can always later in the year, like summer, late summer, early fall, come back to these pots and probably divide them again because they're just going to keep on growing while they're in their pots. And I can turn 2 pots into 4 pots. It's like gardening math. And I'll make sure I give these a drink of water, and I'm going to put them in the shade because they're definitely going to be stressed. And I've just placed the plants over here. This is a nice shady area of my yard, just so that they can recover from the shock for a few days. I have a ton of begonias that I started from seed. These are wax begonias, and I'm planning on using these ones here that have a green leaf in different areas of my yard where the lawn ends and my flower beds begin. Since I don't have too many of this color, I'm popping these in containers and pots, and I figured this color would look really pretty around the pond. So I'm going to grab a 6-pack of these. The pond receives a little bit of sun for sure. It's not full shade, but it's also not full sun. So I figured the begonias will do really well in this area here. The reason I'm not doing the white begonias is because I have the English daisies, which are white. So I wanted to add a little bit of different color. And behind me, I'm going to be putting 2 window boxes. And the window boxes are going to have a mix of impatiens in them and a lot of pink. So I thought this color pink flower on the begonias would look really pretty here and complement those window boxes that will have the impatiens in them. And I'm just pulling out some of the rock that came from this area here when we built this bed here, or this pond. And I'm just going to use Osmocote Plus outdoor and indoor slow release fertilizer. I like to buy a big huge bag of it. I found it to be the cheapest on Amazon, but you can also find it locally in different stores. I made a video showing you my process for collecting the seeds for begonias, as well as how to start begonias from seed. I'll be sure to put a link to that video down in the description below. There were 2 different videos on that process. These begonias have definitely become tall and leggy, but I believe that they're going to fill out now that they're going to be taken out of their pots. And if they don't, for whatever reason, I can always come back in here and cut off some of the top growth, but I'm not going to do that right now. I did order some mulch recently, and I've started putting it down in different flower beds. There isn't a lot of area around the pond where I can put the mulch, but wherever there are small little pockets, I'll definitely be putting mulch in those pockets as well. I like the growth habit of this plant better than this one here. It's a little bit more compact and tidy. Around the pond, we did put drip irrigation, which is really nice. So I don't have to worry about watering these. They'll just get watered every day. But I will be giving them liquid fertilizer once a week. I like to use Miracle Grow. When it comes to the mini hosta that are around this pond, you can buy them online. There's a place close to me. It's called New Hampshire Hostas, or nhhostas.com. I've only been there once, and I know that they sell a bunch of mini hosta and they ship them as well. But do your research if you're interested in mini hosta. The one thing I will say about them is that they are expensive. I got these from my mother-in-law's, and I only got a few pieces of each, and then I just divided them year after year, which is why I have so many now. But definitely you can find them online. The more common ones, again, like mouse ears, you might be able to find locally. But what I've also learned about mini hosta is they're mini, they're small. So you want to make sure you tuck them in an area where you're going to enjoy them. That's why I have them around my pond. But if I didn't have a pond, I could make like a little fairy garden in a pot, and that would look super sweet. And you could put that fairy garden somewhere where you walk by it every day and you'll really notice it. One of the reasons I started so many plants from seed is I really want to have high impact this year with my plantings. And if I was to buy these plants, as many as I'm planting this year, it would be very expensive. So this is a great way for me to save money. I'll give it probably 2 weeks or so and wait to see how these plants are looking. And if they do start sending off blossoms on the ends, on the side shoots here, I'll go ahead and top these just so they're not so top heavy. But I'm going to wait a few weeks and just see what they do and how they perform. I'm glad I'm tucking these begonias in this section here because it's actually quite narrow, as you can see. There's not a lot of room. One option could have been to put more mini hosta, but I figured these would look really pretty here. Another option could be like canna lilies. I could have done the shorter variety or the dwarf variety of canna lilies. And that might be something I might want to try next year just to get that more tropical vibe. The big question would be whether or not they actually receive enough sun, because they do need sun to thrive. I think that looks very sweet. I'm glad I have some color there now. And my hope is that these will all just get bushier and really fill out with some nice pink color. We just need to be patient, give them time. The next thing to be done is basically just weed. There's not a lot of weeding to be done, but you can see there are a few weeds here and there. And I want to open up these areas and see what we're going to do next once the weeding is done. I had a really pretty mini hosta that was in these pockets that are empty now. And I had taken a bunch of them and moved them around a tree in my backyard because I wanted to complete a pattern that I had going on back there. And that's why I have empty pockets around my pond now. And that's fine. I can always, like I said, fill these in now with annuals, as well as some other mini hosta or small hosta that I have in my backyard where all my other hosta are. I have a couple of seedlings here. This right here is campion. It looks like a lamb's ear, but it's campion. And then I have some seedlings of the fringe bleeding heart. I'm just going to go ahead and pot these up just to keep them. I swear, I'm such a sucker for seedlings of perennials. I really should be just weeding them and throwing them away, but I just can't. And I had the 6-pack handy because we just emptied it with the begonias. So I just filled it up with dirt. And I'm just going to put all the seedlings in this 6-pack just because. I actually would like to have a lot more of this fringe bleeding heart around my yard because I think it would look really pretty. Much of my yard is kind of like a woodland shade garden. So why not, right? We might as well pot these up and baby them. Again, they're going to go in the shade. They're going to get water. And probably by later in the summer, they'll be ready to be potted up into 3-inch pots. In fact, a lot of times when it comes to bleeding hearts, be it the fringed or the old-fashioned, the larger the plant, the more upset the plant gets with being dug up and transplanted. So it's better to do this with baby plants anyway, little seedlings like this. Aren't they cute? And you can see I have my drip line here. And when we mulch this area, I'll make sure to just cover that up just to give it a nice tidy look. Even though this is providing color in this bed, you can see it's very leggy. This is a pansy, and it's from last year. It just seeded itself here, and it provided some really pretty color early in the season, and it is still providing color. It really needs to be cut back, but what I'm going to do is actually dig this up. I have what I call my pansy nursery, and I'll show you where it is, but I'm going to be digging this up and moving this to the pansy nursery. When you leave my pond and you head away from the walkway down towards my driveway, over this way right here are a bunch of plants that I started from seed, and they're going to find a home. But at the base, right here in the ground, I call this my pansy nursery. Let me bring you over there. I planted pansies in this area, I want to say 3 years ago, and they dropped their seeds. And now, ever since then, every spring, I am gifted with beautiful pansies in this bed. And I love this area. I hope it does that same thing for me next year. Because then what I do is I take pansies from this bed and I can put them in pots and containers around my yard. I can even put them around the pond. And it adds that nice splash of color in the early springtime. On a different day, I will come in here and I will be cutting these all back by at least a half. I'll give them all fertilizer so they can flush out again. But boy, this bed just provided me so much joy and so much color during the early spring months. I really, really am thankful for this pansy nursery. All the pansies in here have become leggy, and they will definitely benefit from being cut back. People say, I didn't think pansies were perennial. Well, if they drop their seeds early enough and establish themselves and survive our cold winters, I guess they do come back for me. It's pretty fun. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep on weeding in here up to about here. And if I find anything that's worth mentioning or showing, I'll definitely do that. But otherwise, let me just keep weeding. It should be a quick job. Sorry about the poor lighting. It's now later in the day, which is why it's bright and sunny here. But I did get this area weeded, and it's pretty much ready to go if I want to get planting in those spots. So I think the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to cut back these few perennials that are in here that, in my opinion, are just making this space look a little bit cluttered. So let's get in there closer and I'll show you my process for cutting back some of this stuff. I really love saving the seeds of a lot of my plants, both annuals, perennials, vegetables, you name it. However, in this particular bed, I am not interested in saving the seeds of these plants, such as the Jacob's ladder. Part of the reason is it looks messy, and also I have lots of Jacob's ladder elsewhere in my yard. So I can let those plants go to seed and I can collect the seeds off of those. So to cut back the Jacob's ladder, what you want to do is see right here, this is where the plant had bloomed. And if you follow it all the way down on the stem, you want to cut it down at the base there. And what that will do is that will just tell the plant to, okay, it's not going to go to seed, but it's going to keep putting energy into the plant and getting the plant to be more robust and bigger for next year. So we're going to go ahead and just keep doing the same thing, finding a flower stalk and following it all the way down and cutting it at the base of the stem. And now you can see right here how cute the foliage looks at the base of the plant. But now we just don't have all of the stems coming up, and it just makes it a little bit tidier looking over there. We have a lot more to cut back, so let's keep going. Aren't those English daisies so sweet? I just love them, even if they do self-seed everywhere. You can see that this guy right there will need to get pulled, but we'll leave it for now. And when it comes to the heuchera, for right now, again, I'm going to leave the flower stalks and I'm going to let them bloom. But then as soon as they're done blooming, I'll have to come back in here and just cut those back because, again, I'm really just growing the plants for their foliage. But you can see where the Jacob's ladder was in these couple of sections here. It's all nice and clean now. So the next plan of attack is to go and get a bunch of the Queen Anne's lace removed because that's just a big squirrely mess and I don't care for that. What a difference it makes just to do a little bit of a cleanup job. I really am pleased with how it's looking. So you can see where the Queen Anne's lace was and behind the pond there. That's really been all cleaned up along this area here. And again, I'm just going to leave that there for now. And I think that still has, I think it looks pretty, so we'll leave it. I love this grass. I just love that chartreuse green color. And I think it complements very nicely with the color of this hosta here as well as that hosta there. So let's go to my hosta garden on the east side of my house and let's go shopping for some more little smaller hosta plants that we can tuck into certain parts around the pond here. The sun is shining in here in certain parts of this garden, so you really can't see how beautiful this is. Up close you can see, but as you look further into the hosta bed, the sun is just coming in at a funny angle. But check out all the hosta. There is a ton in here. We're going to go towards the front of the bed because that's where some of the smaller size hosta are. I just wanted to show you. It's like a sea of hosta in here. I love this garden. I also wanted to show you at the base of this tree, there's some smaller size hosta and there's some more at the base of this tree. And that's what I worked on last year. And that's where I took the hosta from the pond and moved it there because I was trying to complete a pattern. You can see around this tree, which is just down the hill from the other trees that I just showed you, that this one has a lot more hosta at the base. And that's basically the pattern I'm trying to follow. And again, as we head down, you can see that there are a lot of hosta even around this tree here. So my goal is to eventually have 4 to 5 trees along the edge here, surrounded with this mini hosta. I just love it. I think it looks so pretty. So we were over there and we're heading towards the back of my yard. It is a jungle out here. It's a weedy mess, but it's okay because this is reality, right? And within this weedy mess, there are some beautiful things. And I want to take you in closer just to show you. Right there, those are some really cute smaller size hosta. We're going to dig those out so we can put those around the pond. There are many areas in my yard that have been overgrown or taken over by weeds. And sometimes I wonder, should I show you all those areas? But I think it's important to show those areas because that's reality, that's realistic. I'm doing most of this gardening myself and it all takes time and it is something I enjoy. And I think it's good to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because even in this ugly section of my yard, there are some beautiful treasures in here. They're here because I put them here. And there was a time when this garden was beautiful, and it will be beautiful once again soon enough. I just love this hosta, and I think this would look really pretty around that pond. And honestly, I think other than this hosta, the other thing that we'll end up adding is we will add some beautiful flowering annuals. And I think that should do it because there's a little bit of room, but there's not a ton of room in terms of open pockets around the pond. And you can tell I love this type of chartreuse green color. I just think it's so pretty. It looks like I might have broken this one. It has a little bit of a root, but we'll see. Okay, let's bring this over to around the pond. What do you think? Don't you think that's going to look so pretty, this color of leaf compared to this color of leaf? I just think they're going to complement very nicely in this area. Here's the one where it's a tiny bit of root to it. We'll try planting it. If it doesn't survive, that's fine too. So there are 4 pockets that I want to fill with this hosta in this area here. And this is one pocket. There's 3 more. So based on that, we're going to be putting about 2 pieces of hosta per section. And if I need more, I can always go back and get more. And I know that just like the rest of the hosta around the pond, it's going to fill right in over the next few years. I just want to leave room for adding an annual in each of these areas as well. And I think it'll look nice to have some mulch on the outside when I get to mulching all this. I don't want to have it totally jam-packed with the hosta either. Okay, we popped a small piece over in there, and then we popped a few more pieces, and they're pretty small, and I know there's one over here, there's one over there, there's one on that side over there. And I know that that bed where we just dug these from had more. I'm going to go back, I'm going to get some more. So for real, I think my motto for this year should be tackling one flower bed at a time. And what a great feeling. I mean, I love this hosta, and I had put it in that flower bed with every great intention of it looking beautiful. It did look beautiful when I initially put it in there, but now you can't even see it in that bed. But around here, I'll get to enjoy it, and you'll get to enjoy it when I do garden tours. So why not pull it out and do something with it? So we're going to count up how many pieces we just dug up, and then we'll place these in here as well. All right, so we got 7 more pieces of hosta here, plus a little baby one. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get them planted in here. I'll show you what it all looks like when I'm done. I originally said I didn't want to have any hosta along here, but there was just this one little cute pocket that just was calling out having a lime green hosta. So I put it there, one little piece, but remember, just remember, next year that will get bigger. And you'll be like, wow, I remember when Vita planted that and it was tiny. And I'm trying to see where else. I planted one here because, you know, there's a lot of colors going on. There is that color right there, and I wanted to bring that color over here with a different leaf structure. It's such a small pocket that should fill in over time. But, you know, again, it's 2 little teeny tiny plants in here. They look a little sad. Don't worry, they'll be fine. That's that. And then I added an additional one here, and I'm leaving a spot for an annual. On the other side here, we have the same one, the same type of hosta. And I added one right over here. And just now, I added some over here. And again, this is going to eventually fill in right there. And then earlier, we planted that one. And the goal is hopefully that should fill in over there. There is a small pocket here, and I was looking, and I noticed that a bluish color hosta would look really nice there, because when you look at the pond, There's some blue there, there's blue there, there's blue there, and there's blue there. But as you make your way this way, there's no blue. So somewhere in here, on a different day, not today, I'll have to make just a mental note that I want to divide some of that bluish colored hosta and put it in here somewhere. Okay, so I'm just going to go grab some begonias to pop in here, and we'll get planting and finish up this project. And in case you're wondering, that's a really pretty pink dianthus. Part of me wants to put it in here, but I haven't done it yet because I want to see how it plays with the begonia. I think it's going to clash. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so we have already planted some of this begonia here, and that has the darker reddish colored leaf. And I really want to use this begonia that has a greenish color leaf. The one thing I don't love though, and I'm thinking as I'm talking, is they are very tall, and I feel like they're perfect, along the edge of my lawn where my flower beds begin. So I'm looking at all my plants, and am I allowed to change my mind? Why not, right? So let's go over that way and let's pick out something different. I mean, optimally, I would love to use impatiens. I just don't know how they would do there. What do you think? I'm thinking maybe we should try it, because my only other option that I believe, if I don't use the impatiens, is other than coleus, I have a shorter color begonia with a dark leaf. Let me show you. This guy here. And I had already said I had a lot of white over there because of the daisies. And they appear short, but then you can see under here they're looking kind of leggy. So again, since I collect my own seeds from my plants, who knows how long they're actually going to get or how tall they're going to get. And then, we have all of these beauties. And this is vinca, but that also can get very tall. So I'm just thinking out loud, and I know I said I want to use pink. Why don't we try the vinca? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try the vinca. By the way, if I had more of this dianthus, we would just pop in the dianthus around here, but we're not going to deal with that today. I'm going to remove the dianthus and let's get planting. We have vinca to plant in here. Let this be a lesson to you that it's okay to have a plan and then change it. I do that all the time. I think it's really hard actually when it comes to gardening to always have an exact plan. Even if you go out and you buy your own plants, you think you have a plan and then you come home and it's like, that's not going to work. That's me like all the time when it comes to gardening. When it comes to the vinca, if I find that it's getting a little bit too tall for my liking, kind of like the begonia, I can always size control it. That's fine. I feel like it looks kind of skimpy just having one here. And since I have so much of it, I think in this area, I'm going to put 3. And if I have to remove them later, I can always do that. But we're going for maximum impact right now. Of course, once I put the mulch down, I don't think it would look so skimpy. But right now, it looks skimpy. And in other areas where I'm going to be planting this, it might be that I can't fit 3. But at least here, I should be able to. Just like my other plants, these vinca were started from seed, and they were started from seed that I collected myself last year. And I'll definitely make videos again this year showing you my process for collecting seeds for all these different types of plants. So much fun. I wanted to mention the pond was cleaned recently, and when it comes to a pond like the one that I have, and you fill it with water and you have like a fountain, sometimes the water splashes and the level of the pond goes down because the water is splashing in a certain direction. So I noticed that that is happening, and I'm going to have to refill this pond with some water. And then I'm just going to have to check the way that the fountain is set up for the pond and just adjust it slightly so that it's not splashing so much water out. I did want to mention that though, that the level is down, and that's the reason why. And I understand that a lot of people don't have ponds, so in terms of this video, I'm hoping that you're learning a lot of other things regarding just designing around a small space like this, especially along a walkway. I just think it's a neat idea to do mini hosta and these type of plants around a front walkway. But also to give you the idea that, ponds are fun to have. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be a small one. And again, I made a video showing you the process for how we did our pond. And I'll be sure to put that down in the description. By the way, I'm pretty sure this is the hosta that's around the tree. It's the only one that survived, or I guess not survived, remained in this bed. This hosta spreads super fast. So there's a small piece here. Next year, it'll be like double that. It's going to grow very quickly. And then if I really want, I can come back and move that plant around in this bed. Operation Cleanup Around the Pond is officially complete, and I'm very excited. The only things left to be done at this point is just basically I need to mulch, and that should be a pretty quick job. And also I need to just top off the water level in the pond and then fix the pond filter or pump, I guess, just to make sure that it's not splashing out too much water. And yes, those are water lilies that are in there that overwintered in my pond, which is really cool. And you can see how pretty all the little vinca, the pink colored flowers are. They really just add a little bit more life to around the pond. I love my mini hostas, don't get me wrong. I think they're absolutely beautiful, but we needed some color in here. And this area, remember earlier, it looked like a big weedy mess. It looks a lot cleaner. And I think the English daisies are very, very sweet. And cleaning up around the pond is a wrap. I'm so excited that we got this project done. If you like this type of content, I'd love it if you hit the like button below. Please share my videos with another friend or family member if you think that the videos could benefit them. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Please drop them in the comment section below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.